And it's been confirmed, Chairman, that the live stream started.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Everybody, and welcome this morning to the Miscellaneous Licensing Committee. We're getting quite dab hands at this. We are here to discuss this morning, the Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Vacations and Conditions of Licence. So I hope you've all had paperwork to go with those. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask questions. I will start off introducing myself. I'm Sandra Hay, Councillor for St Austell Cover, and I'm chairing this morning. If I go to John, Vice Chairman, please.
Good morning. I'm Councillor for Elston South and Committee.
And Councillor Lennox Boyd.
Good morning, I'm Boyd for Saltash North, Cornwall Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Foote.
Good morning, Jesse Foote speaking, Cornwall Council for the St Landolph Division.
Thank you, Councillor Pascoe. She said she might have to pop out to Tenant Slabisco. She will come back in. If she can't get back in before the confidential, we will leave a message in the chat box to say we've gone into confidential the meeting completely.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Dorr from the Liner Division.
Thank you.
Good morning, Malcolm Brown, St Austell.
Councillor.
Good morning, Councillor Davis for the London Division.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Good morning, Councillor Johnson, member for Lanrons Division.
Who have I forgotten? Is Councillor... Oh, sorry, Councillor Flashman.
Good morning, Ashman, representing Bray, St Dominic, St Millions.
Thank you. Have I got Councillor?
Yes, good morning, Cornwall Councillor for St Million.
Thank you. I'm just checking the officers a moment to make sure I've done it. Okay, so I will go on to the councillors I was doing. I'll go on to the officers. Angie?
Yeah, good morning, Angie McGinn, Licensing Team Manager.
Chris Matter?
Hello, yes, Chris Matter, Licensing Compliance for Public Council.
Thank you. James Langley?
Hi, James Langley, Acting Environmental Manager, Cornwall Council.
Thank you.
James Peck, Manager for Community Protection, Licensing and Protection. Thank you.
Thank you. Kath Woodson?
Good morning, Woodson, Licensing Officer for Central Cornwall.
Thank you. Lynn?
Then the small meeting.
Mark Andrews?
Good morning, everyone. Mark Andrews, I'm the Solicitor Advisor this morning.
Thank you. Rowena?
Thank you. I'm Rowena Brebner, Officer taking the minutes.
Kent? Sorry, Sarah?
Everyone, Sarah Kent, Senior Licensee East.
Is Sharon Bailey?
No, Chairman, I don't think Sharon's attending.
Thank you.
Yes, I am.
Oh, hello.
Good morning. Sharon Bainin is an attendance officer for the west of the county.
Thank you. I think it's everybody. Have I missed anybody?
Chairman, I'll check to see if Councillor Pascoe has come back.
She won't, not yet, because I believe her other one was attending.
Okay, all right, okay.
Thank you. She'll put a little note in the box when she's returning. Have we heard anything yet from Councillor Biscoe?
Not as yet, Chairman.
Okay. Right, in that case, we will continue with any apologies for absence.
There are no apologies, Chairman.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? No, good. Right, so straight into the special conditions on item 3. Is that Councillor Biscoe just turned up? I believe he might be waiting in the lobby at a minute.
Chairman.
Thank you, Lynn. Councillor Biscoe, can you hear? If you unmute. Lynn, do you want to run a quick check, because I believe he is here. And he's unmuted.
Councillor Biscoe.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we fived.
Thank you. Could you confirm that you can see and hear me okay?
Hear you.
Can you see?
Can see you.
Are you able to turn on your camera? I've got you. Could you put a quick X in the chat box?
I'll put a pretty speeded X. And
thank you. Well. Thank you. All done. Thank you,
Chairman.
Chairman.
Sorry, delayed.
Okay, thank you. It's nice to see you here, Bert. So,
I'm nice to see you.
Thank you. So, we'll go straight in as proposed, as out. Is it Angie who's going to, or Sarah going to?
Which of Chairman?
Thank you. If you'd like to proceed.
Thank you. In relation to the Hackney carriage and private specials and conditions of licence. So the committee determined the council's vehicle specifications and conditions of licence took effect from the 1st of July 2030. These have been amended by the committee since that date. The committee instructed officers to consult on a number of proposed to those documents. A consultation has taken place. The specifications and conditions of lighting, the proposed changes that upon are attached to 1, 2 and 3 report. That's pages to 45. Those changes are shown as tracked within these documents. And for the consultation was in relation to age limits and requirements for electric and hybrid vehicles. Note there were also a number of other measures being proposed at the time, detailed within the appendices. In authorising them to take place, members took into account comment made following a questionnaire that was issued. Details can be found using the loan at page 4 of your report. So the consultation took place between August and the 2nd of November 2019. The delay in bringing the outcome to the committee today has been due to rain. The proposed a 3-phased approach to help tackle the air quality we have in Cornwall. Phase 1 proposed that from the 1st 2019, for the grant of a vehicle licence, at least a Euro 6 diesel engine, a Euro 4 petrol engine, newer Euro standard, older than 10 years old time of licensing. Phase 2 proposed that from the 1st of July 2020, vehicle proprietors, partners who collectively had vehicles licensed with the council would be required to have at least vehicle licensed at all times, an electric or zero emission hybrid vehicle. Then phase 3 proposed that the council need to renew existing vehicle licenses until the 1st of July 2020. And after that date, all vehicles would have to a Euro 6 diesel engine, a Euro 4 engine or a newer Euro standard, or be no older of age at the time of licensing. We have had a number of responses in relation to the consult. These are shown at Appendix 4, which is 46 to 74 of your report. See that there's a right-hand column of officers in order to try and assist the committee. Publication of the report, a number of photos have been received from the trade, and these supplementary Appendix 5 that was published earlier this week, and a copy was emailed to all of the committee. We go any further, members would like to make an amendment to the reports published. We would ask that the committee consideration of phase 2. It's believed that the ERA is not in place yet in Cornwall in relation to vehicles. We understand that there's not the rapid charges in place at the moment, so those are the charges. That we have a number of charges which take a couple of hours for the vehicles. We understand that we will be having 150 more charging points installed within Cornwall for years, and the government £1.3 billion national funding for local authorities that we for some funding. Have James Langley, the infrastructure manager, and James Peck, the business development attendants today, who will be able to access after my report in more detail with that. Thought members that Cornwall will be in a better position, and that actually phase 2 would be realistic to ask the trade. And I think that unfortunately we're there yet. So I would have a recommendation which I'll, if that's okay. Due to bringing the report, so if members do defer consideration today of phase 2 and just concentrate on phases 1 and 3, dates have elapsed already in relation to the delay in bringing the report to you. Members are minded to implement, new dates will need to be agreed. You'll see from having read the consequences that the majority relate to regarding age limits surrounding electric vehicles. But there were a number of other minor proposals that weren't commented on, but therefore request that the committee those amendments as appendices 1 to 3. Attached at Appendix 4, we received a response from Dan Baker from the Transport Coordination Service. Dan's response was the tinted windows. So this is shown at pages 50 and 50, if that's helpful for members. Dan is on that the committee can bringing in a requirement in relation to TIS. Again, as members know, we considered this previous, and the current requirements in relation to those are that the vehicle must meet all constructions and use regs, which means that the front side window allows 70% of light transit, but there's no restriction at the moment regarding the level of tint in your window and the rim of the vehicle. If Dan has responded, we're not able to obviously change anything. Members would need to go out and again. We do consider that, would like us to go out for consultation, then we can bring again following consultations. So the committee today is asked to consider the responses received and determine whether to make any amendments to vehicle spec and conditions, so the dates that it will take effect. If I can just amend my recommendation then, Chairman, rather than making it, I can just read out the new recommendation. I've emailed it to you and our solicitor. Our recommendation now, Committee 1, give consultation responses received. 2, consideration of phase at a later date. And 3, age limits, determine whether phases 3 will be imposed, but subject to alteration dates, implemented subject to modification, not implemented at all. If the committee resolves to implement, determine the dates that the changes will take. 4, all other amendments that were as set out at appendices 1 to 3. And 5, whether it wishes to a report to review the tinted window requirements in relation to Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle specifications. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Sarah. Just for the public of the trader listening in today, I'm going to allow you to speak after James Langley and James Peck have spoken, and the committee members have had questions for us. So, so be patient with me to allow you to speak after that. So I'll have James Langley or James Peck.
Chairman, could I just interrupt 1 second?
You may.
Possible that Sarah could have the amendment, the revised written email to members?
I can do that.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you. Do it to me. I've picked up mine. Mark, I believe you have wanted to say something.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's Mark Lister here. Correct something because obviously the dation's been changed now. So just perhaps it's something that to people that are going to come in a second as well. But so would it be appropriate, because normally if we're deferring something, we need a date, but I appreciate that that's possible in the current circumstances. So would it to defer until in service and any other appropriate service in the camp to sufficient infrastructure place to support implementation of that? Question I had was if members are going to be asked to amend under Nation 3 in the report, then possible to provide those dates, your submissions, either, and that's either for licensing or perhaps from health and the business. So I don't know if Emily or Sarah, if you want to just those or.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, your suggestion, Mark, in the recommendation regarding the licensing service and the department when we're ready, I think actually in place is fine. And yes, we dates actually that we're happy to suggest in helpful. Do you like me, Chairman?
I think that's it. If you have the dates available.
Chairman, if we're if the recommendation, the revelation sent out to us, could we also have included in that email suggestion of the material of what it is that we're going to be asked to vote on?
Thank you, Councillor Biscoe. Sarah?
So I'll pull together, Chairman, once I've explained, and I'll send it. So in terms of phase 1, we're proposing is to change the date. So from the 1st of October 2019 to the 1st of 2022, 18 months from now. So the proposal is, and I'll email this on in a second, phase 1 is that from the 1st of 2022, all applications of a vehicle licence be at least a Euro 6 diesel engine, Euro 4 petrol engine or a Euro standard, and be no old years of age at the time of licensing. And phase 3, we're proposing to change from the 1st of July 2024 to the 1st of January 26, which is another 8 on from the proposed date that was on. So it would read that the council will continue to renew existing licence until the 1st of January 2026. To that date, all vehicles would have a Euro 6 diesel engine, Euro 4 petrol engine, or a newer Euro standard older than 10 years of age at the time of licence. I will email that round to members now.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Right, so emailing that around, if I have either James Langley or James Peck next, please. Sorry, Mark, did that answer you?
Yes, so Sarah could email what she to the members and also to myself. In relation to point 2, I can assist with that when we go below the line. If members want to go below the line, I can assist with the exact, because obviously you need to cover that off. So yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, sorry, James. Which one have I got?
Hi, it's James,
Thank you,
Environmental
James.
Protection. And I just wanted the reason for bringing these amendments forward is to link in with some council strategies that are going. The main one for us is the Clean Air for Cornwall strategy, which is a current view and is due to go to Cabinet on the 16th of December. And we are looking, and at the moment we have 9 air quality management areas across. We have poor air quality due to nitrogen, and this is mainly due to traffic. So we are trying to options in terms of reducing the amount of nitrogen and particulate matter that cause poor air, and it is the and calculations that have been done suggest 100 people a year could die prematurely from poor air Cornwall. So it's quite an important strategy that we're taking forward. As part of that, we would like to encourage users of vehicles, particularly diesel vehicles, to either change their vehicles for something that is either zero capable or hybrid, or where that's not possible, to go Euro 6 engine or a Euro 4 engine. Really reduce roadside air pollution, as the Euro 6 engine has a great has lower emissions than the Euro engines. With regards to the amendment around charging infrastructure, whilst we have 205 charge points around the county at the moment, and this is a lot of investment has gone into that, we still feel that possibly the amount of rapid charges available is still quite low. Significant investment going into the electric charging infrastructure in Cornwall. We think 150 are likely to be installed before 2023, in addition to those 205. And our government is driving Build Back Greener agenda. Actually, they will be looking at phasing out full cars by 2030 now. So in line with the council's climate action plan and Cornwall strategy, we feel that we have an opportunity here to emissions from short trips, which obviously taxis can be minimised as much as possible by looking at the engines and the emissions that those engines. We've considered this carefully with the amendments and the impact of COVID trade, so we feel that the amended are reasonable. The vehicle ages, etc., when these place, should make affordable options for the trade. So I think that's it for a minute, unless there's any more.
Chairman, you're on.
Apologies. So if we have James Peck next, please. We'll take questions after him.
I've got updates on, other than I've been working on installation of 2 rapids, both in Berrickham Road, Coltman, and Flower Pot Chapel, Carproof. So we are proactively looking at more rapid tank infrastructure due course, and for those 150 will be as well, giving extra, chassis for taxis. So yeah, that's a project that I'm working on. 2 rapid chargers are likely to be completed by March 21. I know my colleague Ben is working on several other ends. So that's it. Yeah, that's the update on.
Thank you, James. Thank you very much. Right, I've got questions coming up, officers. Councillor Mould.
Morning. Hi. Just to confirm that, so these are they going to be for tax only or general use, and a realistic idea of how many we need to going to make this efficient and work the way that we actually it to?
Who would like to answer that?
Yeah, I'll answer that one. Yeah, these two new that James was talking about are, we have a grant from Fit Them, and they will be prioritised over a particular time period. So whilst they will form part of the public check as well, there will be testified that taxis will get priority on those. Obviously, we need to work with the trade for.
Thank you. Is that okay, Mr. Mould?
Yeah, it's half an answer. I can't think that businesses are going to be particularly happy with that. I mean, we're going to have to talk a real time, aren't we? Anyway, thank you very much for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Flashman, I'll bring you in a minute. I'll go first. Councillor Brown.
So I've got two questions. I must admit, I'm very about this consultation. It seems to me to be totally flawed. It was conducted before the pandemic, and unless I missed it, I don't think Sarah Kent referred the impact of the pandemic on the viability of taxi businesses at all. In Langley, he did. But I've got two questions. Can I ask the officers? I'm assuming that parties and the representatives of the trade are here today. Is that there's what we've already been told by email them about the financial position of their businesses, and should we take that into account when we are on whether to progress this at all or it's the future? And secondly, it's really a question, Madam Chairman, and it's something that Mr. Andrew, he was implying that in this debate we might want to go into private session. I would very much hope that we were, even if we are being given legal advice. This is a great public interest, and it doesn't relate to circumstances of any one person, and I think the debate must be in public session. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, did you wish to come back on that one?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, they give legal advice in private to protect the public. You know, we don't go below the line for my necessarily to protect the public. Legal advice is pretty, so we sometimes give legal advice, and it will depend on what the legal advice is sought. But you know, I would generally advise that I do legal advice in open session because it's privileged, and sort of basic requirement in relation to legal that is privileged information, and I give that advice to others when they ask for it. So if you ask advice, then I will be going with it because that's what to do, I'm afraid. So that hopefully addresses.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Councillor Flashman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm so concerned about the forward-thinking licensing officers where they're bringing forward the powered cars. Are they going to be fitting rapid at the place of the that's obviously at their work? And I would like pressure be put on government to give them to do this, because the expense to these will be immense. And the less, like Mould mentioned, or statutory plugins, they shall end up with a lot of other congestion plugins. If there aren't enough plugs, then the general public basically for it. The other thing was the emission. We are being hoodwinked into our vehicles are called to the emission. a raft of vehicles coming with no emission tests whatsoever. A lot of large delivering Cornwall, and you drive the functions coming in them are absolutely. Now, unless it's in place that they meet our emissions into the country, here we're just a brick wall. I'll come in a bit later if there's May.
Thank you, Councillor Flashman. Want to answer his questions, please? James Langley. Okay, off you go.
As to grants, there are grants for this. There's the plug-in taxi grant. It isn't a grant that's for taxis. I believe that's from OLEV, which all their charges to be fitted at their premises. Grants towards that. James Peck has got only more information. Do you know, James?
Yeah. The plug-in taxi gives some money off the retail value of the taxis, and it's provided by so dependent on the specification of the electric vehicle, that gives potentially more discount. But I can get Sarah to forward that.
Thank you, James.
I think about emissions I was interested in.
Isn't it?
I mean, I think emissions really about from foreign vehicles. I mean, it's obviously, I don't know the proportions travelling around the county. I imagine it's quite low, but the majority of pollution. The majority of pollution in our towns and our air quality measures from diesel, from cars, basically, mainly, with HGVs and good vehicles as well, but the majority is diesel cars.
I disagree with that.
Okay. Right. Next, I've got Councillor Biscoe.
I'm somewhat sceptical in which we're approaching this. I feel that the government is setting a date which it's bringing forward of 2030, at which it's going to say that there will be no more petrol powered vehicles. Well, fair enough. We seem to be wanting to bring that forward by another 4 years, and to impose on a trade upon which we rely as an authority to move people, and upon which very many people who can't afford motor cars also rely. And to me that there is a balance to be struck. This is acknowledged in the revision of the dates between what we would like to achieve, how we can achieve it so that we maintain practical levels of service, and most importantly, we also maintain a degree of provision within the taxi trade, by which I mean there are big or small operators, and I would not want to be creating situations where bigger and can lay hands on more money quickly can buy, whilst people who are smaller are going to probably put to the wall as a result because of the speed to go at this. So my question is, why is it that we need to go at this quite so quickly and so in advance of the government's deadlines, which are already, by any stretch, and bearing in mind that, to my knowledge, a significant number of operators have already moved to high and are planning strategies to move towards electric. Now, the impact is, and I think this is what my recommendation is acknowledging, is that the impact, the economic impact of the epidemic is that people's investment strategies have been knocked back. And it is a little premature in terms of the way in which COVID response is evolving to beating that people's investment strategies can be got back in a particular time period until we know more about how recovery is going to look, and we don't at the moment. I'm interested in to hear about the economic that underpin the revised dates. And second, it's a very practical question, but being generous, 5 minutes to fill a car up at a petrol pump and half an hour to quick charge an electric vehicle. I don't know how petrol pumps there are in Cornwall, and neither do I know how many taxis there are in Cornwall, but I suspect that 150 quick charging, they're all at half an hour, is going to have an activity impact on the taxi trade, which I think we need to baiting into the way in which we approach these changes. Having a taxi out for 5 minutes while it fills up with petrol is one thing. Having it for half an hour is another. Having it in a queue of people waiting to charge and each take off with only a small number of points available seems likely to have a profound effect on the levels of service that we can actually put in place. So there is a, I think, about productivity to ask it. One wants to specifically achieve the environmental improvement, and therefore the timescales need to be realistic. So I'm going to suggest later, Chairman, that actually such material changes in the way in which this which are being proposed in the recommendation suggest to me that we need to go back out and consult the trade.
Thank you, Councillor Biscoe. Councillor Foot.
Thank you, Chair. Tending to agree with lots of the statements that have been made by Councillor Biscoe and Flashman. Just a couple of quick questions really for Mr. Langley. So we mentioned that we have, I think, somewhere in the region of 200 charging points already in existence. Well, do you know if those are all of the same standard? Because I feel like there are charging companies and different standards for charging. The same standard, and what are their locations?
Yeah, I'm in terms of the charging infrastructure, but my knowledge that they will be chargers, so you'll get fast chargers, which are slightly, I know it sounds fast, slower than the rapid chargers. So there are those, and they will be locations around the county. An app or a site where you can see all the load, which we can send you, which I think is called Zap.com, which basically allows you to see where those charges are that people can use. But obviously there's more coming. As I say, I'm not an EV. Obviously, my area is air quality, so I can't say exactly sort of, in terms of people charging, how much it would cost. They need a particular contract with a particular company. Get that information back to you out if you wish.
Yeah, that would be really is about air quality, which you just mentioned. So Vision has an air quality management area as well. But I'd have to say that I'm really thankful for the members of the trade who've sent emails and reports and obviously put a lot of effort in getting the air quality issues around Cornwall and how much the taxi trade have on that. And I think it was in a document provided by Mr. who's on the call, basically stating that the licensed trade has their into air quality issues is something like 0.47%, right? So it's really small. And I'm just, and I'm not saying we don't address those things with the taxis. We should. Again, I would agree with Bert about the speed that we're going with this. I'm just wondering, are you as well looking at the rest of the fleet? I know that really for this committee, but no doubt Cornwall Council has a fleet of its own putting out things. So I don't know if you're looking at that. But in addition, we might just be going down the wrong road altogether with electric vehicles. With hydrogen cell vehicles coming online from 3 different companies, and actually from 3 different companies, this might be the wrong direction altogether. So I'm very concerned with the speed at which we're going, and I'm wondering if officers have taken into the impact of possible newer, better technology from hydrogen cell vehicles rendering, EVs possibly obsolete.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just going actually, yeah, we're doing quite a lot around the, I think part of the carbon neutral plan, I think the target is to move 10% of the exit to alternative fuel in 2023, and then 100% of all fleet vehicles to switch 30. I'm not involved yet, but obviously that sort of links into the air quality plan, but obviously that's part of the action plan. So the council is doing that hoisted fleet. There's a lot of investment in public transport as well, because we used to be quite big polluters, and I know there's been sort of a lot of investment in both from First and First Kerno, sorry, and Go Cornwall buses upgrading their infrastructure, and quite significant amount there. I think 14 million in one case and 18. So, yeah. So in terms of cleaning up sort of public and vehicle emissions as a council, I think there's a lot of work going on around that.
And what about hydrogen cells? Are you looking at those?
Not something we've been looking at the main council, but obviously as they will come online, we will alternative fuel vehicles. So it's not just EV, anything that's alternate fuels will obviously be welcomed. Obviously it's all going to do with cost. EV vehicles just be plugging the gap for 10, 15 years potentially, while these vehicles, because you've got to remember, when these vehicles are expensive in the first market demand increases in them, the prices will come with what's happening with EV vehicles. So yeah, I don't think it's a solution to EV thing potentially, but obviously as technologies come involved, obviously anything to do that will clean up Air Cornwall. So.
Well, thank you, James. It's such appreciated. But interesting to know, that our fleet will be 100% EV by 2030, but we're asking the trade to kind of get this sorted by 2026. So anyway, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Foote, and thank you, James. Next, Councillor Daw, did you want to speak?
Yes, I do. I'm just thinking about green energy, exactly what I've done in the past. Electric isn't as green as you think it is. I mean, it's expensive, it causes a lot of damage to the environment. And I just want to make a little small point about diesel cars and diesel. I would tell you now, a lot of diesel cars, diesel lorry tractors are all AdBlue. It's no emissions, including the car that I drive. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Councillor Daw. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair, points really. I'm not sure it's to James Langley. I think James Langley mentioned that some points were going to be installed at a car park in the Druth. Are they sectioned off, and how many spaces will be if they're sectioned off from the public? And will the taxis have special dispensation, i.e. free parking whilst charging, whether that be a quick charge or a... And the other, this may be saying a bit stupid question, but it's been raised, brought to me, Madam Chairman, is with the empty possible points in Cornwall, will this put an extra pressure on the central grid if all the vehicles are being charged roughly at the same time, and what impact will that have on producing more electric?
Thank you. Who would like to answer those?
I can answer that, Chairman. Yeah, so in terms of space consumption, there's likely to be free parking spaces consumed by the rapid charger being installed at the Flower Chapel car park in Red Roof, and we're looking at sorry, 2 seconds.
Ooh. You okay there, James?
Yeah, we're looking at reviewing the cost of the charging ticket at the minute, ensuring that we incentivise taxi drivers by hopefully giving them a free permit whilst they charge. But we're looking into that at the minute to incentivise their usage.
Thank you.
And in terms of just on the network, I wouldn't be able to answer that one, I'm afraid, Councillor.
That's okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think my points have been covered. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Biscoe.
I want to make the point I think is very relevant, which has been made by, I think, with regard to the other being undertaken by First Kerno and by Plymouth City Bus, that's Port for Cornwall, and that is that both those upgrades took place with significant benefits accruing in business terms to both companies. So First was participating in One Public Transport Cornwall, the development of that, and we're upgrading in order to getting an integration between bus and rail and so on. And of course had to upgrade in order the terms of a contract for which they had won. And in both cases, there was the other side of the equation, significant commercial benefit to both companies in doing so. We're actually asking to do here is in a very, very short time to ask a number of companies, small and big, to take on a significant investment liability at a time of great uncertainty, with clear business available to them whatsoever. So the deal that we're offering is very regulatory, not very business orientated in my view. And I think this is a key question that I would like to understand. I mean, okay, some mention has been made of grants from EvoStick or whatever they're called, but I think we need to just be understanding how the people who have framed this proposition have looked at the balance that needs to be struck between achieving what is in regulatory terms desirable and achieving what in business terms is practical. Because at the moment, I don't feel that the proposers of the recommendations have actually taken into account the business realities. And I feel that if we're going to do this successfully, then we need to have those two things better married. Personally, I would prefer to see respondents to the consultation have said that they fully support the shift away from petrol and diesel. I would like to see there being a bit more of a collaborative process going on between the council and the trade in terms of actually formulating a realistic policy in business and environmental terms. Sorry, that's more of a statement, I think, but I would like to have James Langley in particular comment on that, because there are a number of issues about the methodology that we've been following, which I think need to be addressed.
Okay, James, can you do that? Thank you.
I think we need to put the context of when these proposals were proposed. This is pre-COVID, so I think we're probably in a different economic situation now. I think obviously we are proposing to defer the EV phase 2, so obviously we can look at that in the future. But with regards to the emissions engines, we are trying to encourage across the county people to not use older diesel vehicles on shorter trips, as they do cause an air quality problem in our main towns. And obviously we've any adjusted dates with regards to any new vehicles that are licensed. So this is not, existing vehicles can continue. We feel, I believe, are reasonable, but that's just my personal opinion. Obviously, if we look at the date that Euro 6 engines came into, is 2015, and that is by the time, if we do April 2022 as the date that this phase 1 comes in, then obviously vehicles of that age might be 7 years old then, and I feel when changing a vehicle, I don't think that is unreasonable. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm understanding the pressures of the trade at the moment, so I apologise for that. But that was felt reasonable at the time. But obviously we haven't done a full economic assessment, and I think it's a really good idea from Councillor Biscoe. Perhaps we engage more fully with the trade to look at it in the future, and see whether we can have both environmental and business objectives which are actually favourable for everyone. So I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, James. Thank you for that. Are you okay with that, Councillor Biscoe?
It is a much approach to achieving what we want to achieve than setting out, you know, with a sort of a heavy cricket bat swinging around our regulatory head.
Thank you. Thank you. Has anybody else got any further questions for the officers? Because what I'm going to do now, if you haven't, I'm going to bring in the 4 members of the trade who've been sat waiting very patiently. No? Okay. Right, who would like to kick off? I have Mr. McLaughlin, Mrs. Arnold, Mr. Witchell and Mr. Arrington. Who would like to kick off? Shall I choose? So shall we have...
I don't mind.
Who's that, Tom?
Sorry, I was just Stephen Witchell.
Oh, Steve, I was going to ask you, Steve, because you've done such a lot of work on this. Kick off.
Well, first of all, can I just mention shorter trips, because it seems to be one of those catch words or sentence phrases. Taxis, if they're operating normally, they're not cold engines. Shorter trips, the issue of shorter trips relates to cars that have sat cold. They do a short trip, the engine doesn't get a chance to warm up properly. That doesn't apply to a normal taxi because it's constantly warm. So it's not having the same pollution effect in relation to the shorter trips mentioned. I just wanted to mention a definition that I found on the internet. To kick a man when he's down is to attack him at his weakest point. And that, I think Councillor Biscoe has summarised that already, that this has the potential to do exactly that to the taxi trade. I'm glad, considering deferring the electric thing for now, the age limit, I would propose that the average taxi business model is that someone would look to buy a 5 to 7 year old vehicle and hope to get 4 to 5 years service out of that vehicle. I think that's a realistic average. If you are to bring in an age limit, I've suggested 10 years at first application, but could we have an actual maximum licensing age limit of 12 years? That would allow someone buying a 7-year vehicle to get 5 years service out of that vehicle, which is very realistic, and that's a very viable idea. Or alternatively, based on what Councillor Biscoe and some other members have said, can we not just defer this whole thing for now altogether, because it's really not the time. I mean, we're on our knees.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Who would go next? Should we have Mr. Arrington, Tom? Would you like to go next?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to get you off mute and make sure my dog's not saying anything. I've got some notes here, just generally, regarding the tinted windows. Obviously, the council would need a light meter for that. I think the costing previously has meant that that's something that they didn't want to, was it's a completely kind of subjective. You know, it's dark enough, you've got councillors looking through the windows and trying to work it out themselves. Most cars these days do have some form of window tinting. So what I was thinking was maybe CCTV on the internal of the vehicle could be a way around having the tinted windows, because it's such a hard thing for you guys to police. And obviously with eyes in the car, it gives the driver some accountability for what's going on in there. Right, I'm looking through my notes. What else we've got? Still allowing cars that are ridiculously old, I personally disagree with. You've got 20-year-old Mercedes with 5-litre petrol engines driving around as taxis. It's completely unnecessary. I understand they're very cheap to buy, but if you're trying to get to the end goal of a cleaner environment, it's not the kind of thing I believe the council should be plating and allowing on the road. I think on a practical level, looking at emissions is probably a better way of doing it, and it is certainly a more cost-effective way of doing it. So I've got still got a couple of hybrids that are 2010 on the road. They've had a couple of batteries in their life. They're on their second engine, but they're very fuel efficient, and they're very good on the emission side of things. So, you know, it's good. I would have to literally throw away a car with a brand new engine and a new battery in it for the sake of it being a 2010 car, as we're about to go into the new year. So I personally think emissions are something we should be looking at rather. I understand when it comes to diesel, you've got Euro 6 engines and that kind of thing, and I think yeah, there has to be a different way of looking at things when it comes to that. Obviously, on the side of electric cars with EVs, the rank would need charging points. This will create issues regarding queuing, being on the rank, you know, the payment. I think it's the Highways Agency, isn't it, that deals with payments. I've got a situation where I've got my other half, she works in Plymouth, so I spend a lot of time in Plymouth at our house here, and we don't have any off-street parking, so I've currently gone to apply for on-street parking charge point, and it's a bit of a nightmare dealing with the Highways Agency. Obviously, the council would need to with that, and certainly consulting where a good point to put these charging points would be a good idea. Just look at my notes, maybe controlling trade, yeah, sensible locations, yeah, like say Falmouth Rugby Club would be a good idea, a good place to have some charging points. The government announcement, obviously 2030 will help, but we as a trade, I think, should be leading the way. I suggest larger companies like myself, A2B, you know, the ones in St Austell, could lead the way rather than imposing electric on the smaller companies. So there are smallish companies with 5 vehicles to say that they have to go out and buy an EV vehicle. I think at this time is a huge financial strain on these smaller companies. Having 5 vehicles certainly doesn't make you a large company. Sorry, just looking.
Okay.
Yes, so I was going to say something on the AdBlue. The AdBlue does not vehicle 0% at all. It reduces emissions of up to 90%, and the hydrocarbon monoxide emissions by about 50 to 90%, and particulate emissions by 30 to 50%, but it doesn't create zero emissions. But yes, I mean, obviously we've got the end goal of trying to make Cornwall air quality better, and it's certainly something I think as a trade we should be looking into. I think as the infrastructure's there, it's something that the larger companies will be happy to do. But yes, I think that's about it for my notes.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Okay, right. I'll ask Mrs. Arnold. Joy, would you like to go next?
Good morning, Chairman and committee members. I've been listening with interest to the conversations, and I must admit, most of it is very encouraging listening to what everybody is saying, particularly Councillor Biscoe. His points he made were my points mostly. I do have a few notes written down here, which seem a little bit unnecessary now, but I'll read it anyway, and then add to it perhaps. The agenda focuses on vehicle specifications and conditions of licence. I'm speaking to you today on behalf of the members of Truro Taxi Association, but on a personal level also for the trade as a whole. The service we provide to the community, businesses, people with disabilities, people encumbered with young children, the elderly and infirm, not to mention visitors to our beautiful county, is immeasurable and incredibly necessary. Our trade has suffered dreadfully from the COVID-19 pandemic, and it seems will continue to do so for some considerable time to come. We would ask you to defer any changes to requirements to the vehicle specifications for a substantial period of time to allow the trade to try to recover and become a viable option for them to make a reasonable living doing their very essential jobs. If that doesn't happen, there's a strong likelihood that the survive will be disrupted and lost at a huge cost to the communities we serve. I have an article which was written by Ian Millership, the gentleman who conducted our last 3 unmet demand surveys. It only landed in my mailbox yesterday, so I didn't have time to forward it to you. And it wasn't specific to the matter in hand today, but it does explain very clearly some of the problems that the trade is facing. So I will, if that's okay with you, I will send you all copies so you can have a look at it retrospectively.
Thank you.
The hydrogen technology, do you remember a while ago we had LPG gas was all the rage? Everybody rushed out and had LPG gas, and I don't know where it went, but it never happened properly. A lot of money was wasted. I'm a bit concerned that the same might happen with the electricity. Everybody's rushing ahead into it. Somebody made the point about will the grid stand it when everybody's trying to charge their cars from it? I don't know. I think there's still a lot of questions to be answered on that one. A few years ago, I got laughed at for suggesting that we planted a lot of trees along the roadsides. I hear now that they're actually planning on planting a Cornish forest, so maybe that will help. And also, why pick on taxis and make them change 6 years ahead of the government guidelines? Why don't we kind of let nature take its course? People want to, we want to have clean air here, and we want to conform and to help. We can't afford to do it at the moment, and I think these things will come down in price eventually and get more efficient and get better provisions for it. So maybe we should go a little bit more slowly and get it right. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Okay, Joy, thank you.
I'm sorry I can't see you.
That's okay. That's okay. I recognise your voice. Okay. I'll bring in Mr. McLaughlin now. Dan, it's over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I've been listening with interest to everything that's been said here, and on the whole, I agree with a lot of what's been said, particularly with what Councillor Biscoe mentioned, having a real need for a definite exit plan or strategy from COVID-19. Especially for the trade. Now, if you believe what's been mentioned on the news, even with the impending rollout of these new vaccines, we think that things won't get back to normal until at the very earliest, the end of 2021, maybe the beginning of 2022. So, of course, all of these, that in question, will have a knock-on for these dates for this phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That we've just been talking about. So I think that really it would be a good idea before we can actually discuss the various options: electric, viz, hydrogen fuel cells, etc. By all means, but as regards rolling them out and implementing them, I think we definitely do need some kind of plan or strategy based on the government's guidelines for us coming out of COVID-19, because otherwise we're just pushing everything back. You know, we definitely need some guidance on that. And basically, as I say, I do agree with a lot of what's been said, especially about the charging points. Somebody mentioned about there's 205 of these points in Cornwall, with another 150 more by 2023. And of course, the question, which has already been raised, is, well, whereabouts will these be sited? How are we going to separate them from public general use for just taxis? What times? I think somebody mentioned about that they would be open to the general public as well, and that there would be certain times that would be set aside for the trade. Well, what times would they be set aside for the trade? Whereabouts are these charging points going to be? And I think Steve Witchell made a valid point there, as well as a couple of the councillors as well, is the times it takes to charge these vehicles as well. I would also be very interested to hear, I think somebody else mentioned about there is a government grant available to have charging points installed at business premises. I would definitely like to hear more about that. But basically, as I say, I definitely agree with a lot of what's been said, not only by the trade, but also by the councillors as well. But I think that Councillor Biscoe has made a very, very good point, which is we definitely do need some kind of exit plan or strategy from COVID-19.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Thank you very much, all four of you. You're more than welcome to stay and hear the debate. If any members have got any questions briefly for any of the four members of the trade that are here. Yes, Councillor Biscoe.
I got the impression that Mr. Langley and I were heading towards the uplands of agreement. Yes, on the idea that possibly it would be a good idea to sit down in a collaborative way with the trade and examine the balance between business resilience and environmental ambition. And if that is the case, it would be useful to understand what the representatives of the trade think about a relatively short deferral and a more collaborative approach to finding a means of making the environmental shift, but bearing in mind all the pressures, COVID as well as everything else, on the trade, to make sure that we do that in a way which is at least not detrimental to business and is realistically, practicably achievable in business terms.
Okay, did you wish James Langley to come back to you on that one?
Yeah, I have to say I second that. So
you
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Thank you, James. That's a really good positive, actually.
Yeah.
Right. I want to put that into some sort of recommendation.
Before I make a recommendation, Chairman,
Yes.
I'm interested to hear what the representatives of the trade think about the idea of sitting down collaboratively
Right.
to shape a policy between us.
Right. Okay. As Mrs. Arnold is an official representative of the Truro, would you like to reply to that? Your response first?
Are you asking me?
I am, Joy, yes.
Bad line, yes. Bad line, it keeps getting all funny.
Okay.
I think that's an excellent idea. I would be very, very happy to do that and have the opportunity to work together with you, because I've always found the licensing committee that we have at the moment to be very reasonable and very helpful and easy to work with.
Okay.
So
good.
yes.
All right. Thank you, Joy. Thank you. Dan McLaughlin, did you similar thoughts?
Definitely, it's an excellent idea, and I look forward to being in attendance. I think it's an excellent idea.
Excellent. Steve Whitson?
Yeah, I think allowing the trade to negotiate its fate would be much more preferable. But what I would ask is that when Councillor Biscoe makes his proposal, that he proposes this whole thing be deferred until we're back to some normality, so that we can have proper meetings and not these online things. Because I must admit, I do feel unsafe with this online thing, and I think everyone else does as well.
Okay. Right. And Tom?
Yes, it's not much fun, is it?
Yes, I agree as well. I think
You do. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah,
okay. So I have a question now from the Vice Chairman, Councillor Martin.
Thanks, Andrew. Yes, I tend to agree there with the last speaker. We're expecting another peak now in February, March after the Christmas melee. So we may not be to make any sort of assessment business-wise or policy-wise until probably mid the summer. So I quite agree that there's no need to be sort of timely on this, as Bert suggests, I think we should look at maybe an early summer consultation.
Okay. Sarah Kent, have you got any comments to make before I go back to Councillor Biscoe?
Hi, Chairman. I think Councillor Martin's just said what I was thinking, to be honest, and so did some of the trade. I think from a practical perspective, to sit down and have a conversation with the trade at the moment, a lot of taxi drivers don't use email, don't use the computer, so we can't invite them to a meeting via Teams. I suppose we just need direction on if I'm assuming what you're asking is that we will have a consultation, a formal consultation with all of the taxi trade, but perhaps we arrange some open sessions as well to discuss with James Langley and with the trade that want to come when we're in a position to be able to have a public meeting. Maybe we have one across East, Central and West, so 3 meetings, and invite the trade perhaps from those areas, but also send out a formal as well. So I just want clarity on what we're being asked to do.
Okay, Councillor Biscoe, would you like to come back on that one a minute? Because you're in the process of doing a proposal, I believe. Oh, sorry, Mark. Oh, okay, I've got you. Mark's just put up Sarah. If he can assist with the wording, let him know. Okay. Right.
I'm just about to put up a suggested proposition onto the chat thing.
Okay.
Got it now. I hope members have got it. What I would suggest is, and I take Mr. Witchell's point about deferring. What I suggest, I'm not proposing a public meeting. What I'm proposing is a joint working party between representatives of the trade and Cornwall Council in order to fashion a policy which balances business resilience with environmental improvement. So my proposal will be this, that we defer pending a collaborative engagement between Cornwall Council and representatives of the trade to evolve a policy approach which achieves a timely shift to zero emission fleets in a timescale which is practical in terms of business resilience. And I would also suggest that the report comes back to the committee about that as soon as possible, but no longer than, say, 4 or 5 months, 4 months.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Proposal.
That is my proposal, yeah. I'm not talking about Teams meetings or anything like that. No. I mean, how it's done is up to the people who are doing it to work out a methodology. I think if we set a time scale, I certainly accept the view that we shouldn't lag behind and we should move things forward, but I think we have to be practical.
Thank you, Councillor Biscoe. I'm going to bring in a couple more speakers a minute. Councillor Mould.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would agree with everything Councillor Biscoe says, but my gut feeling to all this is that we are rushing this. Yeah. I mean, we are in a very precarious state, and it's very clear from all the comments from the taxi companies that, you know, they are in a very parlous state with their business and rolling out all these cars. In an ideal world, I would like to see this brought in line with government guidelines. I mean, 2030 is, you know, if we're going to be safely out of this and working safely, I don't think we'll be out until 2024. I mean, it just seems to me that it's going to take a long time for businesses to get back on their feet. And I think we should give them that time. I understand that, you know, I wonder whether some of this is, you know, the council, we've got a green energy agenda that we want to roll out. But for me personally, this would be like chucking the taxi service, excuse the pun, under a bus. And I really am not prepared to do that. So I'm fully in line with Councillor Biscoe, and I think it's a really good idea.
Thank you, Councillor Mould. Now I've got Councillor.
Yes, just a couple of points of detail. Firstly, I do suggest that you invite Mose to have his input, because I think he can help improve the wording of anything. But 2 specific points I want to make. One is I would suggest that any delegation includes you and your vice chair. And secondly, I suggest it doesn't include any specific timetable, but that is part of what is delegated to users. And I'm bearing in mind not just the uncertainty about the way that the pandemic may or may not change, but also the fact that elections in May, and therefore, you know, I think it's a genuine area of debate as to whether this is a matter which ought to be considered in the dying days of this council or after the new council found its feet. But I don't think any of us can know that at the moment. So that's why I think Mr. Andrews can be really helpful with wording to give sort of suitability for how this process is taken on.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I was going to bring in Mark in a minute, which I'll do now, actually. I'll bring him forward. Mark.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously it's for members to decide what their recommendation is, but I've jotted down, like I always do, this sort of main some sort of wording, and it's obviously Councillor Bisk. If Councillor Bisk, I appreciate that, Councillor Bisk. If I just read out what I've got.
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
And if you don't agree with it, then that's absolutely fine.
No. I've only just worked out how to get it up there, Mark. That's all. I wasn't
taking into account what Councillor Biscoe said, and he might want to tweak what I'm going to say slightly anyway. But so I've just tried to keep it as simple as possible. So defer. So the proposed wording I would suggest would be that members can defer consideration of the Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle specifications and conditions of licence report. So you're deferring consideration of the report to allow for further liaison between the appropriate services from within the council, representatives from the trade, together with the chair and vice chair of the miscellaneous licensing committee, and a report be brought back to a future meeting to consider any amendment to the Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle specification and conditions of licence. Because what that then does is it allows you're referring to the report which sets out all the stuff about emissions, so you don't need to, in my view, you don't need to go into that sort of detail. You're allowing for it to be deferred, and like I would say, I would prefer for it to be deferred to a specific date, but in this situation, because of COVID, I accept that that's not possible. and the feeling I'm getting from members certainly is that members are being very respectful towards the trade, and so I think if you don't put a date on it, it doesn't put that pressure on. It allows for those meetings to take place when appropriate, and allows you to move forward, and the chair and vice chair will be involved, as was suggested, which I think is an excellent idea. And they can keep an eye on it and make sure that members are kept up to date as well. So if a particular member or members are concerned about any delay, they can speak to the chair and vice chair direct, and can be advised, you know, well, yeah, okay, it's been going on a bit long, we'll get a report brought back. I think that would be the wording I would suggest. So I'll read it again. Defer consideration of the report regarding Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle specifications and conditions of licence, to allow for further liaison between the appropriate services from within the council, representatives from the trade, together with the chair and vice chair of the miscellaneous licensing committee, and a report be brought back to a future meeting to consider any amendments to the Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle specifications and conditions of licence.
Okay. May I come back on that, Chairman?
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I certainly agree with Malcolm Brown that Mark can find the right words, and thank you very much for that. That's very good. I would just make one suggestion there, and that is that essentially what we're doing is setting up a working group between the council and the trade in order to fashion a policy which will achieve a certain outcome. And that certain outcome that needs to be mentioned in my view, and in my wording, Mark may feel that there's a different way of doing this, but that we achieve a timely shift to zero emission fleets in a timescale which is practical in terms of business resilience. And that means that what we've done is set up a working party with a term of reference, so that the committee has made it clear what it is that it's trying to achieve. All the arguments that have been made to us about environmental performance are absolutely correct. And all the arguments that have been made to us about the ability of the businesses to actually achieve What we all desire in a timely and practical fashion is the other side of the argument. And by putting in that term of reference, what we're doing is focusing that working group on finding the policy which achieves that balance between business resilience and environmental performance. And I think that's essential if you're going to set something up like this so that they understand what their purpose is. So I would suggest that something along those lines would be included.
Thank you, Councillor Biscoe. So do you want Mark to alter his slightly?
Well, I want him to include something in Mark Andrews' speak, which says that, the job of the working group is to achieve a timely shift to zero emission fleets in a timescale which is practical in terms of business resilience.
Yeah,
which is what I've got written down there. You may find a more elegant and pleasant way of putting that, but that's essentially, I want to give them a job description.
Okay.
Okay, if you just give me a minute, I'll just give me a minute, Chair. I won't take long.
Thanks, Mark. Councillor Foote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just a little concerned with the specific wording of zero emission fleets. I mean, it's a bit of a greenwash term anyway, because even electric vehicles have in their production emissions. So I agree with Bert. I think we need to have something that they're working towards, but hopefully Mark can phrase it in a different way. I'm just kind of concerned about that zero emission. You know, it might be just in a shift to moving away from reliance on, you know, fossil fuel fleets or whatever, but I'm just concerned with the terminology there.
Okay. Sarah, Kent.
Thank you, Chairman. Just from a practical perspective, because I think this is important for the trade, certainly. We then, from a practical perspective, from what you're saying, we would effectively invite all of the trade or invite some representatives to attend a working group with the council members to discuss what we think, you know, what we could come up with. Then I suppose we would then see what the general consensus is from that meeting and then report back to the committee with the general consensus of how to achieve that, with the view then to consult all of the trade formally at a later date, because we'd need to have the views from all of the trade. And Cornwall's taxi trade is enormous, so a working group with all of them practically won't work, but representatives from the taxi forums it would. So just really, is that okay? Is that's what we would do?
That is absolutely
I think so, Chairman, yes. I mean, and one of the things is that the Chairman and the Vice Chairman are being proposed to be part of the working group.
Yeah.
And the agenda for the committee rests with the Chairman. So the Chairman may well be advised the moment when she feels that it should come back to the committee.
Brilliant.
So that's practical. The second thing is that I certainly think that we should be putting it to the trade that having a small number of people to represent them in a discussion which actually, you know, is about cooperation in forming a policy which is mutually beneficial is a really good way of moving things forward. And so therefore I'm sure that they would be prepared to accept that. Nobody's going to achieve any commercial advantage through being there, and then you're right, we would have to, because it's a material difference, we'd have to go back and consult on the outcome of that process, and so on. But that, you know, I would expect that to be the case anyway. I mean, I would have expected that the revised proposal that you brought forward at the beginning of the meeting was so materially different that there was possibly a case for consulting on that as well. So we're going to consult with the trade whether we like it or not.
Thank you, Councillor Biscoe.
Sorry, can I just clarify that? So you want the, sorry, it's Mark from Legal again. You want the game go out to consultation, because that's not what we said before. We said we're going to have meetings and then bring this report back, but you want a further consultation.
Sarah?
Well, it's for Councillor Biscoe, really, Chair.
What we're trying to do, Mark, is to achieve a policy which achieves that balance between regulation and commercial resilience. And so therefore, I think that it is a different way of coming at the policy. So yes, I think it would need to go back out to consultation, but the working group should be able to come back within a short period of time at the chairman's invitation in order to put forward a proposal, a methodology. I don't want to tie them down too much.
Whew. Okay.
It might. Sorry, it's Mark from Legal. It might be better, Chair, to bring something back to the committee which then goes out to consultation, if that makes sense. So
following the working parties.
Yeah, so you have your meetings, you have your meetings. They discuss things. They formulate some type of at least formulate a view, taking into account the resilience towards their businesses and also the green issues, and then that comes back to committee, who then decide effectively
to put it into consultation.
What form the consultation should take, because otherwise you're kind of going to get too much.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah. Okay, I'll see what I can do with that.
Okay. Oh, somebody has their hand up. James Langley, did you wish to come in there?
Yeah, just a working group. I think it's a great idea. But I also think as part of that working group, if we are going to concentrate on looking at that business resilience and the greener issues around that, I think we need to have a really good look at what's available out there from government in terms of funding and helping businesses who want to become greener. So I just think that should obviously form part of that working group as well. Yeah. I don't know if our members are in agreement with that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea, James. Councillor Biscoe, did you wish to come in again?
No, I just wanted to say I think that's a very sensible suggestion.
Absolutely.
Okay, Chair. So Councillor Biscoe in particular, I've amended it slightly. You have to bear with me slightly, but so the wording that I have there. So it's recommendation that members defer consideration of the Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Vehicle Specification and Conditions of Licence report to allow
Oh, you still there, Mark? I think we've lost Mark.
The screen turned on, right?
No, I don't know, Jim. Mark? Who have I got? Rowena, is Mark? Can you see if Mark's okay there?
He's still showing as present and unmuted. Yeah. Obviously, we can't hear him. I can send him an email to see if he can repeat what he's trying to say.
Could you do that, please? If he could, he could even put it in the chat box if he's still there.
Okay.
Right, I've got Councillor Martin.
Yes, thank you, Sandra. I think we ought to take the opportunity to go further up the line and so Cornwall Council can lobby the government for more consideration of support for this industry.
Yeah, that will all come out.
Transports. I think that should be a natural progression from this. Thank you.
I think it probably will be, and I think that'll come out of the working parties very quickly. Councillor Smythe.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This has been a fascinating debate. I haven't participated myself because every time I was going to say something, someone else said it for me, which is always very, very handy and saves your voice. It just occurred, it's really sort of been coming to me, and I've heard everything, as usual, Bert says, has got a lot of sense in it. And I think that we are in this position, it seems to me, where once environmental policy, which is going to come forward with the ever increasing pace, we hope and expect, and certainly this thing over vehicles has already, with the business realities. And I hear very much have much sympathy for the trade. However, there's only one part, and it does seem to me that the environmental movement is going to be moving forward, and the technology that's involved with vehicles and other things is going to move fast now as well, because given that they know that 2030 is presumably going to be a fixed date, then it's amazing how quickly, if investment goes in, these things can happen. So I just got this feeling that we're sort of trying to make decisions in a very, very uncertain environment. COVID's totally uncertain. No, we don't know when that's going to clear at all. and these other things are all going to sort of play into it. So I'm in favour of what's being, what I'm assuming Mark is drafting, but want to keep it sort of fairly vague as far as timescales.
Yeah, I just wanted to call just a brief hold a minute, because we lost Mark completely, and I didn't want to go too far without him being present, but he's logging back in now fully. He will be here any minute. Not just yet. The joys of technology.
Yeah, technology is there.
It is, Councillor Flashman. If Mark isn't able to join us in the next few minutes, I think what I'll do is I will ask everyone to have a break to give him a chance to come back in, because I don't think we should go forward without him being present. Rowena, can you? Sorry, hello, Mark, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me? My job.
Yeah.
Just switch through them. I'll be quick just in case it happens again.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I don't know what it literally just went blank. So I'll start again. So so the recommendation is that members defer consideration of the Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Vehicle specifications and conditions of licence to allow for further liaison between a working group made up of the appropriate services from within the council, representatives from the trade, together with the chair and vice chair of the Miscellaneous Licensing Committee, and a report be brought back to a future meeting to consider any amendments, and that any amendments take into account the intended approach of members to achieve a shift to zero emissions within a reasonable period, whilst taking into account the views of the trade regarding the impact on business resilience.
Excellent.
Is that okay?
Biscoe, what do you think of that?
Councillor Biscoe thinks that's succinct, practical, sensible. Let's get on with it.
Okay.
Looking forward to that break, Chairman.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay. So we've got a proposer for that recommendation from Councillor Biscoe. You would like to second it. And it is as read out by Mark. So Rowena, can I ask you to do a roll call for the vote, please?
Yeah, yes, Chairman. When I read your name, please indicate how you wish to vote. Councillor Biscoe. Councillor Brown.
4.
Councillor Dole.
4.
Councillor Eakin-Smith.
4.
Councillor Foote.
4.
Councillor Flashman.
4.
Councillor Haywood. 4. Councillor Lennox Boyd.
4.
Councillor Martin.
4.
Councillor Mould.
4.
And Councillor Thomas.
4.
Thank you. That's unanimously, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, it's Jane. I missed the beginning of that debate, so I would abstain, but I have been here since. Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you. Thank you for coming back. Right. So did you get that, Rowena? The councillor is abstaining?
Yes. Thank you. Did get that in the vote? Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Right. So that has been passed. So thank you very much. The 4 members of the trade who attended this morning is satisfactory, and you felt you had a good crack of the whip there today as well. And we will see you soon, hopefully in the near future, at some of the meetings. So thank you very much for coming. I'm going to suggest that we all have a 10-minute break, make a cup of coffee or whatever, and so we'll meet. Yes.
Would you consider perhaps moving the exclusion of press and public now, because at that stage you would then pause the live stream? I mean, it's entirely up to you.
Yeah, I'm quite happy.
But if you wanted to take the vote to exclude the press and public, and then, I mean, it's up to you how you wish to do that, but yeah.
Okay.
Or have a break now, it's up to you.
So, right, if we do the exclusion of press and public, that'll only take a few seconds, go for a break for 10 minutes, okay? Right, Rowena, can I have a proposer, please, that we, who's this?
I propose, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Biscoe. Can I have a seconder?
Second, Madam Chairman. I did put my cross in there.
Thank you. And you keep coming up as JC, so sorry, I keep looking to see who you are. And is everybody in favour? Rowena, do you want to run the roll call then,
I
please?
will do the roll call, and also can members at the same time when I call your name please confirm that you are alone and that nobody else can hear the proceedings for when we go into that session, please. Councillor Biscoe. Councillor Biscoe.
Oh, I had a lovely little speech. Own and in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
For and on my own.
Thank you. Councillor Daw.
I'm in favour and I'm very much alone.
Thank you. Councillor Eakin-Smith.
In favour and alone.
Thank you. Councillor Foote.
Yes, I'm for the proposal and I'm alone as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Flashman.
Alone and for the proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Hayward.
Alone and for.
Thank you. Councillor Lennox-Boyd.
For and alone.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
For and alone.
Thank you. Councillor Mould.
For and alone.
Thank you. Councillor Pascoe.
For and alone.
Thank you. And Councillor Thomas.
Alone.
Thank you. That's unanimous, Chairman.
Rowena, I'm really sorry to put this to you, but we forgot to read out the little blurb that
Could we do that
for the
now, please?
exclusion of press and public.
Okay.
Remark. Who was trying to speak then?
Apologies, Chair, it was Mark from Legal. Yeah, could someone read out the wording? Just,
You want me to read it? I've got it here, so.
Thank you.
So this is in respect to the vote, or do you want us to vote again afterwards?
Yeah, if you could vote again, please.
Sorry, Rowena, I just realised what had happened. So the exclusion of the press and public, the committee is asked to consider a resolution that the press and public be excluded from the meeting for the business specified in the following items on the grounds that it is likely to be a disclosure to the public of information of the following description, information relating to an individual. So we've got a proposer and seconder. Rowena, if you would like to run through the vote again.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Biscoe.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Gone on his break.
You may have on Councillor Daw. For. Councillor Eakin-Smith.
For.
Councillor Foote.
For.
Councillor Flashman.
For.
Councillor Hayward.
For.
Councillor Lennox-Boyd.
For.
Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor Moles.
For.
Go.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
I'll just try Councillor Brown one more time. Councillor Brown, are you there, please? Right, well, that's carried anyway, Chairman, without Councillor Brown.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So everybody, if we go for a 10-minute break, be back here at 11:50.